Welcome to the Group Home Riches Podcast. If you have the desire to be your own boss, create your own schedule, and become financially free while at the same time helping people in need, then you've come to the right place. At GroupHomeRiches.com, we teach people exactly like yourself how to get started in the group home business, and on this podcast, you're going to hear their stories firsthand.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tasha McCrae, and I am actually a retired registered nurse and a retired hairstylist turned real estate investor.
And a new group homeowner, correct?
Oh, yes. Yes. So what I did was I married healthcare and my love of real estate, and started turning my properties into group homes.
Yeah, and you probably almost look at it as a real estate investment, huh?
Yeah, it is. It's a real estate investment. I just said, I'll just put a business in each property.
Yeah,
and serve my community.
Awesome. So, what brought you to us in the first place? You have the ideal background for it. So we find that people that have kind of had some real estate investment success or even experience in the past, they tend to do well with this when they put their mind to it. But you also kind of have almost a complete different background being a nurse as well. So you obviously have the really good foundation, good background, great personality for it. You obviously have the desire to help people and then to create wealth for yourself, just judging by those two endeavors. But what brought you into just looking, you probably found us by looking up how to start a group home or something like that. When did that happen and what prompted it?
So my business best friend, she's been running group homes for like the last 14 years. So she joined my club, my nurse REI club, almost a year ago, and we got to talking about it. And she was like, "You should do that since you're purchasing properties. You should look into that." So I started, doing a lot of research, and you're right. I Googled it, it was part of my research. I came across your program. I immediately signed up, and within a week, I had converted one of my properties into a group home.
So let's marinate on that for a little bit. So that's one of the things that holds a lot of people back. Well, not that, but one of the things that holds a lot of people back is we call it, I've heard it called this a lot as well, analysis paralysis.
Right.
You'll find it a lot in like real estate investing, in group homes, and really any kind of business or goal like that. You'll find a lot of people, like you probably see it in your real estate investment, right? Like going to the meetup groups, the people that have been going for like a year or two, and they look into, first they get their real estate agent license and they don't do anything. Then they learn how to do mortgages and they don't do anything.
Right.
They join all the clubs
and they don't do anything.
Yes, but I just kind of want to point that out because it's kind of a reoccurring theme on our podcast and probably every other business podcast out there, is that the people who are successful in it, obviously you want to do your research, you want to do some due diligence, but you have to get started and you're going to learn along the way. So
absolutely.
Tasha's analysis period was just reiterate that again. How long of researching and looking around until you started to like actually take action?
So when I came across your course, like I immediately purchased the course.
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually, I had a tenant in one of my properties, and she wasn't paying rent on time, obviously. And then my property manager had started the eviction process. So it was just, honestly, it was divine timing. So I said, you know what, this property has not cash flowed in a couple of months, so I've got to get this property cash flowing. So I think that was my, that was the fire that was lit,
Yeah.
inside of me, because if it doesn't make money, it doesn't make sense. And, if a property's not cash flowing, it's no good to me. So I immediately, immediately started implementing, the course. And, I downloaded everything, and I didn't sleep for like 3 days. I was all in.
I believe it.
Yeah, I've got to get this property cash flowing, So, luckily, because, I am a real estate investor, and, I had enough money, it was already my property. So I didn't have to go out and, speak to, someone and try to convince them to let me lease their property. I didn't have to do that. And I know that's probably, some of the, one of the barriers for some people.
It is. And we're going to touch on that in a little bit, though.
Okay. So I didn't have that to worry about. So I was like, you know what, let's just do it. And I talked to my husband about it, and like literally she was evicted that following Tuesday. She had to be out, and that Tuesday night, I flew into South Carolina. I live in Florida. I flew into South Carolina, and that Wednesday morning, we were cleaning the house, and by Friday, I had furniture in the house, and I was already converting the den, which was initially a carport kind of thing. It was already converted to a den, and then I hired a contractor, and he went in over the weekend, and in 3 days he converted that den into 2 more bedrooms. So the property went from a 3-bedroom to a 5-bedroom.
So from the time of searching on Google to the time that the home was furnished, we're talking like under 2 weeks, right?
Yep.
That's beautiful.
I had to do it.
Yeah. So let's. I want to. We'll circle back to like what you brought up, which is really it is one of the things that holds people back is getting a property. So that is a huge step. You luckily had one. And I want to circle back on that in a little bit, but after you got the home furnished, let's continue down that path. So you got the home furnished, and then how long did it take for you to go, get the license and hire a bunch of nursing staff and everything like that?
So I actually got my license. I got everything done while I was in Florida. So before I got on the plane and flew up, I had all my paperwork was already in place. I already had a business name. My business was registered in South Carolina, one of my businesses, so I just used that name. It was kind of like plug and play for me, so.
That was almost a trick question. You did not become a licensed facility, correct?
No, the facility isn't licensed. Well, the reason why I said I already had my business.
So you have a business license, but that's another thing that holds a lot of people back. Luckily you found us when you did your search, but oftentimes if you look up, like how to start a group home in South Carolina, it's going to take you to a government site. Yep. And it's going to take you down a very long, confusing path to become a licensed facility. So I was half joking, but I wanted to bring that point home. Right. You do not have to become a licensed facility. We adhere to federal laws like the Fair Housing Act, the Keating Memo, which was put in place by HUD. And if for anybody out there, if you want to see those documentations, just shoot us an email. But that's another thing that did not hold Tasha back. You abide by the same laws that you adhere to when you're renting rooms out. Obviously you can't keep the place in squalor. You have to keep the property up to code. But once you get the property, get it furnished, there's nothing holding you back from, providing housing to whoever you want to. So after you did all that, Tasha, Because you have your first couple tenants in there already, correct?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so let's go back to the kind of the problem. What brought you here? You had a rental property. You got into you do. It's not just rentals, right? But you do. I think you were doing like wholesaling and stuff like that, right?
Oh yeah. I started when I started real estate, which was it's been a little over a year. I started out being a private money lender,
Okay.
and then from there I started wholesaling, and then I was like, okay, I can buy some of these properties. So then I started buying properties for myself.
So one of the misconceptions out there, I think, is that people get into rentals, and luckily you know how to find the deals, right? If you know how to wholesale, you know how to find properties. You can control the deal from there.
Absolutely.
Even with that, I'm sure your rental you probably got it at a great price, especially if it was one that you took down, right?
Yeah, I did, yeah, got it at a really, really good price. When I purchased the property, um, the ARV on the property was 90,000. I got the property for 50,000.
That's so. This is the formula to build long-term wealth, right? I mean, you just made that equity.
Yeah,
It's something you're going to hold and eventually pay that off. You're going to cash flow, and now you're going to have an operating business out of there as well. But I wanted to bring home that point that you got a property for almost 50 cents on the dollar, right? Like 50 to 60 cents on the dollar. And just to reiterate why you even came to us in the first place, that property was not cash flowing.
Nope.
So you had to lease the property, you had to fix it up. You're dealing with a tenant. You probably had to deal with their excuses. Do I need to evict them? I'm sure they didn't take great care of the property, right? Did you go through the eviction process, or did they eventually just leave?
No, we went through it. She appealed.
So going through court costs. How long did that take?
The process was about a month, actually.
That's not bad.
Yeah,
That's really good, actually.
Yeah.
But still, just to give everybody an idea out there of what landlords are going through, it's 30 days of you have your costs to maintain the property, probably financing, right?
Oh yeah. So,
and you got somebody in there that you can't do anything. You can't just go and kick them out. They're not paying you. You have no idea what they're doing to the property. I doubt she was like cleaning and doing upgrades to it while she wasn't paying her rent. Right?
Right. No, but I was. I had the roof.
Yeah.
Purchased it. One of the bathrooms redone. I did a lot to that property.
All that, and how much were you taking home per month? Negative.
Right.
And I'm just kind of building the problem up, and I want people to understand like the why we think group homes are much better than rentals, and this is going to set people up out there for like the partnership pitch, and just kind of understand like where these people, these investors and landlords are coming from. So this is a property that Tasha, got for like, 50 to 60% off basically. She still wasn't making money. Now what happens to these people that are all pumped up after listening to like a rental podcast or going to, a big seminar and get pitched the dream of, building your long-term wealth through rentals? You just get 10 of them and cash flow $200 or $300 per month, and you bring in 20 to 30 grand per year of passive income. And it's just not like that.
No, it's not.
So that's why Tasha is here with us today. She's it's going to serve that kind of same desire you had to help people, right? That's why you got into nursing.
Absolutely.
And at the same time, it's gonna solve that cash flow problem that every real estate investor that I know has that problem. Even if even if it's a great deal. I mean, you can go on biggerpockets.com and listen to the success stories that people post, and just scroll down to what their cash flow is, and we're talking $200 or $300 per month.
Mm-hmm.
So you got your first couple tenants, and you're already bringing in more than you were as a rental property, correct?
Absolutely.
So and how many beds are you going to have?
Well, now I'm going to have 7 beds.
Okay. And how many of those are filled right now? I know you just got started.
Yeah. So just got started Sunday, actually. Well, Friday. I took my first 2 clients in on Friday.
See, that's and you got five more to go. So
5 more to go. I have a slew of referrals. I know we'll talk about that later, probably.
yeah, that's a great segue. That's what I wanted to get into. So how did you find the first couple tenants?
So I use I use your program.
Yeah.
And what I did was I started Googling like homeless organizations, and I put the city in, and I, did like homeless veterans organizations, just things like that, just keywords, using those keywords. And I created a spreadsheet. And then what I did was I just started sending out emails.
Yeah.
I just sent emails, and I started making phone calls.
And like how many contacts did you get on that spreadsheet before you started like reaching out to folks?
So before I started, I probably had about 20 contacts before I started reaching out. But the crazy thing is about group homes, there is this thing. I'm just going to call it a thing in the community. When they hear that you have a group home, it spreads like wildfire. And when I tell you, I probably sent out 4 emails. I'm looking at my spreadsheet now. 4 emails I sent out, and one guy, I called him, and he asked me, he says, do you mind if I share your information? We have a COC meeting every Friday with all the nonprofits in the area. Do you mind if I share your information? I said, by all means, please share my information.
Right.
He did that, and my phone has not stopped ringing, and my emails are like going crazy. I've gotten so many referrals just from that one phone call, that one email.
So this is definitely it's I would say above average results, but definitely not uncommon. So I have a lot of coaching students like yourself that, we recommend getting a couple hundred contacts and consistently emailing folks. I think if you did that, it sounds like you'd get too many leads to handle, which is, I mean, you can see how the scalability of this thing now, right?
Yeah.
So that's you have it's a great problem. But we'll have some people, that's all they need is just one call, one organization that have, a lot of them get, government grants. They need to spend the money. They need to get people placed in properties. Yep. And the huge problem, which we're really trying to change, is a lot of, and this is kind of the challenge to folks that don't have a property, right? You'll see that a lot of real estate investors are closed-minded to this for some reason. Well, it's not some reason. It's because of misconceptions and miseducation out there. So, you have basically a real estate group, which we'll talk about. But you probably went to the meetup groups and real estate forums and things like that. How many people do you see out there talking about their successful group homes?
None.
Yeah. because
no.
it and I get it. It's kind of you kind of have your first kind of thoughts that come to mind is it doesn't make sense, right? Like,
right.
How do you make money by providing affordable housing? So, picture yourself being a landlord and you're only making $200 from people that are qualified with a full-time job.
Right.
You've gone through the eviction process and had these bad tenants. And now instead of having one qualified person, you're imagining like 10 to 15 unqualified people. And it just doesn't make sense at first. So, and that's about the only thought that a lot of real estate investors put into it, unfortunately. And they're done there. So that's the problem that these caseworkers are having also. So when a lot of times when somebody's sharp, somebody that's in it for the right reason, they're caring, they have a clean, structured environment, and they're willing to work with organizations like this, it's almost you can hear it in their voice, right? It's like a breath of fresh air.
Mm-hmm.
And as Tasha mentioned, a lot of times the word of mouth, it's just going to spread. So if you implement that marketing, and I would say, you've kind of only touched the surface with it.
Oh yeah.
But the demand is there and the supply is not, which is, it's honestly not great for the overall population. This is still a huge problem, affordable housing. But for these first, the first batch of people that get into the business, I mean, it's you're providing a product that there's very, very little supply and very huge demand for.
Absolutely.
So you got your first couple tenants. How many solid leads do you think you have now that you need to follow up with? And it's just, but this is such a good problem to have. But go on.
Really, it is. I have about 8 leads, serious leads to follow up on. I have a phone call meeting in about an hour with Salvation Army. Actually, it's a few counties over from where my property is. They've got a lot of people that they have to place. So, so I have about 8 leads.
Yeah, and by leads, we don't mean eight tenants that need a place to stay. We mean 8 organizations with probably a lot of them have the funds directly, right?
They do. I actually cashed the check yesterday.
There we go. So
from a nonprofit, they paid the clients first their deposit and half of their first month's rent.
There we go. So it's a guaranteed check, even if it's not the organizations. What we do and recommend is, a lot of the people that they're going to send your way, they probably have Social Security or some other type of government assistance or some type of assistance for their living. Mm-hmm. So that kind of, I want to tackle these misconceptions that a lot of people have. So yes, you're providing affordable housing. Some of the folks, might be transitioning out of homelessness or trying to get sober or clean or get their life back on track, but you're not relying on them to pay you directly. So completely different from, Tasha has everything set up, right? She's not going to be spending the 1st through 10th of every month, chasing these tenants down for a rent check like she was with the rental property, right?
That's right.
So let's look at kind of the advantages so far of this model compared to your traditional rental. You get a guaranteed check. That's one, and that's huge. How many was that your only rental property?
In that area, yes, but that's my only rental. Mm-hmm.
So once you get up to a couple properties, you soon realize how not passive it is. What do you typically do from the 1st through the 10th of every month with your rental properties?
Well, just sit and wait.
Sit
you
and
know,
wait.
you sit and wait on, to see if they're going to pay.
Yeah, and I worked in property management before when I first started getting into real estate, and that quickly turned me off from wanting to do rentals as like from as a sole proprietorship kind of thing, because all we did was send out scary letters, deal with excuses, and then going through the eviction process. But you don't have to do that with this if you do things correctly. And then the cash flow thing we kind of touched on as well. So what's the multiple, like your projected cash flow compared to the rental? Is it going to be like double, three? What's it going to
My
be?
God. So I'm transparent. So my rental was the rent was $850
Uh-huh.
when I had one tenant in it, and now my semi-private room. I have two semi-private rooms. It's 500 a bed, and then I have one, two, three, four. Is that right? Three private rooms, and they're 600.
For folks that are slow at math like myself, how much is that going to be?
So what did I say? I have, okay, so that's two of my rooms are 2,000 a month.
Uh-huh.
And then 1, 2, 3. So 3 times 6 is 18. So we're looking at $3,800 a month.
And you were, yeah, that's divided by 850. So you're 4xing your revenue. Mm-hmm. So that's another big advantage, right? Now with the management of things, there's things you can put into place to really alleviate the management duties with this type of housing, again, compared to a rental property. So you're using our license agreement or something similar to that, correct?
Yeah, I just modified the license agreement.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the reason why I modified it is because I am a nurse and I have case management background. So what I did was I started a non-medical home care company so I can outsource the care to my non-medical home care. I can bill Medicaid for that.
Nice. That's a whole other ball game. So that's like a whole other stream of income from this, correct?
Yep.
Beautiful. So you're not, you're going to have, you said seven tenants in this first property, right?
Yes.
So you're not leasing the home to 7 people. You are licensing space to them. So another big advantage. So let's say you do get somebody like traditional rental. They're qualified. They have a full-time job. They have a million apartment complexes they could look at, a ton of different houses. They're not going to sign they're going to look for a lease. The difference between a lease and a licensing agreement is basically it comes down to if your tenant's in a group home, break the rules or payment doesn't go through or anything like that, we just reserve the right to ask them to leave. If they don't leave, they're considered criminal trespassing. Compare that to your traditional renter that has a full-time job, good credit, everything like that, a ton of other options. They're not going to sign off on anything like that. Right?
Right. And
with that, you have to go if they don't pay for any reason, you have to go through the eviction process. And if they are, breaking the lease rules, I mean, you typically aren't going to find that out until they move out, and then you have to deal with all the damages. So that's another very huge advantage, and it might sound small, but if you've gone through the eviction process, like Tasha, you realize like how key that is.
Right.
And then another thing that we do, which you'll probably do soon if you haven't already, once you start scaling, you want to have, some eyes and ears on the property. So
I
are
do.
do you
I have a house manager. Uh-huh.
there we go. She's ahead of it. So
I have a house manager.
why don't you kind of explain what that is?
So the house manager is the person who she's my eyes and my ears.
Mm-hmm.
And she just pretty much manages the property, make sure they're not tearing up my property.
Yeah.
Yeah, and basically, that's it. But what she does, she does, cook meals and stuff like that. She prepares meals and she looks out for them.
Okay. So she has a little more responsibilities than our house supervisors do, but you're giving her we'll typically just, we just need basically somebody there to be the eyes and ears, and we'll give them a discounted bed or discounted room.
Mm-hmm.
This almost sounds like, do you have something like that set up for her, or is it like a partnership?
I discounted her bed.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. So, and then you are kind of like you're the operational manager of the house, right? So if there are issues, she's going to escalate it to you. But I mean, you have this really simple systems in place now. And what are your day-to-day activities for this business going?
Actually, it's just, marketing right now,
Yeah.
staying on top of my marketing. That's it. And if she has any problems, I still have the same property manager in place. If it's not broke, don't fix, you don't have to fix it.
Okay. So you almost have them as your operational manager once things get going, rocking and rolling.
Yeah,
So I mean, think of the power of that. I mean, you can do the math, and you can see how this could quickly become a powerhouse, right?
Absolutely.
Once. So in the beginning, yes, you are going to be putting in the work, and like Tasha said, and get that foundation set, your systems in place. It's just going to be marketing, really. But then once you get your properties occupied, I mean, you can kind of, what's your day going to be like then?
Looking for more properties.
Yeah. you can focus on scaling.
I'm already looking for more properties. I've been doing some skip tracing today.
Nice.
Yeah, there's actually 2 more vacant properties in that neighborhood. So
there we go.
Yeah, get in contact with those owners.
So, that's a whole other ball game. But Tasha knows how to find the discounted properties. So why don't you touch on that? And that's kind of what you have a like a group set up, right? Is that through Facebook, or how's that?
So I do have another business. It's called the Nurse REI Club.
Uh-huh.
And I just formed it. Initially, it was a Facebook group, and I formed the group because I wanted to educate nurses on how to invest in real estate, using their 401k and how to roll it over and things like that. And so what happened was it just kind of blew up. Now we have almost 700 members. So
nice.
Yeah. So what we started doing was, we have 700 people in the group. So I carved out a membership, and probably about almost 10% of those people, became members, paid members of the group. And then we started purchasing properties together and doing deals together, wholesale deals together. Oh man. One of the nurses within the membership, she formed a bank per se. So we've actually borrowed money from a group that she carved out from the membership group.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah, so we rehabbed our very first property. We borrowed the money from, it's Funding the Block. So we borrowed the money from that group. Shout out to Donna Rosby. And so we were able to, purchase our property cash and then borrow the money from within the group, pay the money back, and, move on to the next property.
There it is.
Yeah, so it's kind of what we're doing.
So you can there is a lot of ways to acquire properties. So you do not have to go purchase a property off of the MLS. You can. The cool thing about this strategy is that it gives you a lot of leverage when you are putting in offers. I mean, if you're looking to wholesale a property, you have to get it at, they have to be home runs, right? You got to get it at like 50 to 60% on the dollar. um, that
70% is pushing it for me.
Yeah, I mean, you'll find buyers. A lot of wholesalers will lock up as many contracts as they can, like that. There's not as many as those like wholesale deals out there. I don't think that's kind of why I got out of it, but they're still out there, obviously. But that's kind of what I was getting at. You don't have to purchase a property off the MLS. There's creative ways to do it, like wholesaling, which is really what it comes down to, is finding people that have problems and solving them. It's not about like being slick, and like scheming people out of it. You really have to be able to spot people that have problems and work with them. And that's really what it comes down to. And kind of counterintuitive. A lot of people don't realize it. There's also, you can get into you can offer owner financing, and we'll touch on. You can start by renting a property or even partnering with people as well. So the thing is this business model solves two major problems that every single real estate investor out there has: the cash flow problem and like the too many calls. even if it's one, toilet clog problem per year, that's one call that real estate investor didn't want to get. So
that's one too many.
yeah. So we will if you want, we can include kind of that information on your group kind of in like the description.
Okay.
And we'll talk about that after the recording. But you also posted in the Facebook group, right? That was you looking for maybe somebody in for one of your Indiana properties.
Yes.
So why don't we touch on, because you're looking for, you're almost looking for somebody that's in the position of wanting to be the operator, that they can't purchase a property, that maybe like partner with you or lease the property from you, correct?
Right. Absolutely.
Now, as an investor on that side, what are kind of the advantages of working with like somebody like one of our members that's going through the gold course and they don't really have the funds to acquire property? What would make you want to work with somebody like that compared to like your traditional renter?
Well, number one, if they're in the course, that lets me know that that's what they want to do. They've taken the first step. And, listen, I'm a nurse first, so I'm always trying to, find ways to add value and to help people. Mm-hmm. So I was like, you know what? I have this property. It's newly renovated. I'm not dealing with a tenant, putting any more tenants in, one tenant in a property anymore. Every property has to be a business for me. That's just, my mindset. So, and I was like, why not just go ahead? I'm in Florida. I have a lot of I have properties all over the United States, but I don't necessarily, because this is my first group home, I don't necessarily want to have a second group home way in Indiana.
Right.
So to own it and to, to be able to, because now I know, a little bit about group homes.
Yeah.
Can partner up and kind of help somebody else, give them a head start.
Yeah. And you're looking for someone that's going to be there long term, right? I mean, it's not going to be like 1 year and gone.
Yeah, no.
And ideally, if it is like even if it's like somewhat of a partnership, or you're going to be cash flowing more than your regular rental property. And ideally, you're looking for somebody that's going to be sharp and not really going to call you for like miscellaneous maintenance stuff and things like that, right?
Right. Well, that's a part that that's going to be a part of the agreement, the contract. I guess it's kind of not going to be a partnership because they're going to lease the property from me plus 30% of the um, market rent. You know,
I would
but
say.
then go ahead.
Oh, okay. So 30. Yeah. So they're going to be making probably much more than that if
Yeah,
done correctly.
if done
Um,
correctly, yes, they will make a lot more.
so that's one of the examples of ways you can approach folks. So as a land, think of like the problems we covered earlier that pretty much every landlord has out there. If you can kind of just think of the objections that they're going to have. It's probably the same things that everybody out there was wondering when they first got into it. Like, all right, how does it make sense financially?
Hmm.
You're instead of just renting to one person, you're offering affordable housing to multiple people, and that way you bring in 4 to 5 times the amount of revenue. Bam.
Right.
What's gonna protect you, like if these people tear the property up? Well, you have your house supervisor, you can monitor them. We have some people put security cameras in the homes.
Oh, I have
uh
that too.
yeah.
Yeah, I have two security cameras in my house.
Yeah,
My
this is
room.
all stuff that your regular traditional renter is not. They're going to be like, oh no, I'm going to go to the apartment complex down the street.
Right.
And then you're protecting yourself with a license agreement.
Yep.
You're not leasing the space; you're licensing it to them. So we have pitch and a script and a whole guide on how to do this for people out there. So we really want to hammer home, you do not have to be a savvy investor like Tasha. Okay, you don't have to. You don't have to have a partnership with folks that started a bank. All right. um, you can get started by leasing a property or even partnering with folks like this. But yeah, we do recommend that. That's a great way to get started. But if you do want to scale this thing, we do recommend you apply a real estate investor kind of state of mind to things,
Hmm.
and you do want to eventually. Well, we think our model is we're owning the properties, we're getting them at a discount, so we're creating equity off the top right there, and then we're just running these cash flowing businesses out of them, basically.
Right.
So we do think that eventually you're going to want to start owning the properties as well, and if you're going to do that, you might as well learn how to buy right. Um, Obviously, Tasha, you have extremely positive, state of mind. You could tell just by just the success you've had so far and kind of how quick you got into stuff. You didn't spend any time looking for excuses on how to not get started, right?
Right. Right.
um, like literally no time. You didn't even spend time sleeping. What were you just kind of always like that, or were there any like
Yeah.
game changing moments or education or books or anything out there that you stumbled upon?
No, I've always been like this.
Nice. That's a really rare answer.
Yeah, I mean, it really, yeah, it's just, I don't know. Just always been, my mom used to always say, would you shut up and sit down somewhere? Like I've always been wanting to know everything.
Nice. Do you have any like favorite books or reading material or anything like that, or you just kind of gung ho?
Yeah, yeah, I love reading. So I am a Robert Kiyosaki, just, I love him, love him, love him. So I've read all of his books.
So
And
what's the one that was kind of the game changer for you?
people always say Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Uh huh.
That wasn't the game changer for me. The game changer for me, I believe it's called Why the Rich Are Getting Richer.
Is that by Kiyosaki?
Uh-huh. He
Cool.
and yeah, he and Donald Trump wrote that co-authored that book years ago.
I think I read that. They kind of
Yes.
they talk about MLM a lot, right? Or maybe that might have been a different book.
They co-authored 2 books. I've read both of them. But they hit, touch on it a little bit. Donald Trump does, but
Okay.
yeah, but no, that was really a game changer for me. Like I look at real estate totally different.
Well, nice. It's fun. We ask that we try to ask it to everybody, and it's typically Rich Dad Poor Dad is the one that comes up. But for folks listening out there, different book, same author.
Right.
And
let me correct that. That's not by Donald Trump isn't on that one. He's on the Midas Touch and Why We Want to Be Rich.
that's the one I read.
Why you want to be rich, right? So, but it's called Why the Rich Are Getting Richer, and it's by again Robert Kiyosaki and Tom Wheelwright.
Okay.
Yeah.
One of the things that really like kind of clicked for me when I read Rich Dad Poor Dad was a really simple idea. You're in real estate. Where do you make the money by the upgrades that you put in it, or like the pictures of the rehabs that you take when you're selling the property, or where do you make the most money in real estate, and what kind of aspect of the process?
Well, I always tell people, and I was taught this, that you make money when you buy the property.
There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you start out, way over your head, way more than what it's worth, and you'll never catch up. You'll always be behind the 8 ball.
Yep. Especially if you're doing a rental property. With the group home thing, it is a way for you to cash flow thousands on a property. I mean, if you get one of a larger home, 5 bedrooms plus, you could buy one at market value, and you'll be pretty good. But once you learn these techniques, why not get it for, how much equity did you get in the first group home? It was something like, what do you got, like 30K in equity on that just from the jump?
40K.
Right. So think about that, folks. And on top of that, she has you're already cash flowing off of it with just the first couple tenants. But once that thing is fully occupied, you're probably netting a couple grand out of it, right?
Ooh, yeah, probably about $2,000 a month.
So
a little over that.
It's not completely passive, but it's going to be pretty close.
Yeah. I mean, if you're gonna have a business, it needs to be, you need to cash flow more than $200 a month.
Yeah. It's what a lot of landlords out there, they 200. They're getting equity. They are going to build long-term wealth, but you can't pay your bills with equity. So that's why we really recommend folks out there, start networking. You can reach out on Craigslist. We recommend get into the real estate meetup groups, start networking with folks like Tasha that might not know about group homes. Like, imagine if you met like a Sharp Gold Course member at a meetup group, like before you heard about this and you had a rental property. I mean, you'd be pretty open to partnering with somebody like this, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So, awesome. So we will, you touched on the group a little bit. Folks out there, check the link in the description. We'll get that in there, but it's, I'm guarantee we have a lot of people listening out there that would be interested in a group like that. We have a lot of nurses, obviously, that are looking they want to do something that kind of serves the same purpose, but at the same time, be your own boss, make a little more money, stop punching in, working those crazy hours, and interested in real estate as well. So I think a lot of people will be interested in that. So it's kind of free to join, correct?
The Facebook group, we have a general group. Yes,
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. So
okay.
there is like you could get some free info, and then there's a paid membership program as well.
Oh yeah, you get a ton of free info.
Yeah. Very cool. So it's an awesome story. Thank you for coming on. It's cool to see how quick you got things going. So all in, you've only been doing this for like, are we in the first month or two, right?
First month.
That's crazy. So
This is my first month.
yeah, we'll be doing a part 2 soon. Then we'll catch up with you in a couple months to see how big you got it. Very cool. Do you have any parting words for the folks out there?
Just do it. Just do it. I mean, I told my group that. Just do it. I mean, so what if you fall? Get up, dust yourself off, and try it again. That's it.
Yeah. I love it. So Tasha, thank you so much for coming on, and we look forward to hearing an update soon from you.
All right. Thank you for having me.